Hi, I'm Pradnya Desh, the managing partner of Desh International and Business Law, and this is Protect and Grow Your Tech Company. Our episode today is Protect Your HR Investments. I have here with me Akshat Divatia, who is our Director of Immigration Law. Welcome, Akshat.
Thank you, Pradnya. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. I understand that you're going to be talking to us today about the 3 C's of protecting your HR investments.
That's right. I'm going to build on what we talked about in our previous episode, where we talked about attracting and retaining foreign-born talent. Today I'm going to talk about how to protect that talent.
Great. So what are the 3 C's?
The 3 C's are corporate formalities, compliance, and cautious growth.
Okay. So in this context, what do you mean by corporate formalities?
Corporate formalities, as many of you may know, refers to the underlying documents that are created when the company is established. These can be the articles of incorporation, the bylaws, etc. And they set the blueprint for how the company is going to operate. Having that, in addition to the proper creation and archiving of financial records, collectively is what I mean by corporate formalities. When a company takes the pains to set up the structure correctly, to document that structure correctly, to make sure that it has proper bank accounts, that it is paying the quarterly wage and tax obligation, meeting those obligations, and also making sure that it has a copy of all of the IRS documentation, the letter that was issued when the tax ID number is issued. All of these are extremely essential documents from the immigration, from the government regulatory context. It just shows that the company is intent on doing the right thing from the get-go.
That makes sense. And so what about the second C, compliance?
Compliance, in this particular context, refers to what the company needs to do in order to make sure that it's not running afoul of any laws. And so we're talking about compliance in the HR context, which is I-9, which many of our employers have obviously been exposed to. And in line with I-9 is E-Verify, which is a relatively new system. It's a new initiative by the government that permits employers to verify the employment authorization of the employees who are going to submit those documents within the first 3 days of hire. The big advantage of E-Verify is that it is an online system. It is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It is secure, and the results for E-Verify, the verification is provided typically within seconds. And it protects the company because in the event that there's an audit down the road, the company can show that the documents for the employees were verified, and it provides, if you will, a safe harbor.
That makes sense.
In addition, you have the immigration employees. These are the employees who require visa sponsorship. And it is essential for the employer, from a compliance perspective, to make sure that the public access file, this is the file for H-1B and E-3 specialty occupation workers, the public access file is accurate, that it is maintained properly. And also the audit file, in the event that the company has sponsored an employee, one of its top talent, for labor certification, the audit file, which documents that the company has engaged in good faith recruitment when petitioning for this particular employee, the foreign employee. The audit file, the public access file, those need to be properly maintained. And finally, in line with that requirement from a compliance perspective, is also the payment of wages. The company needs to make sure that it is paying the employees the wage that is specified in the labor condition application, and perhaps just as importantly, not requiring the employee to refund or to pay in any way, shape, or form the legal fees, the government filing fees associated with immigration sponsorship. So that together is the bucket of compliance.
Okay, so that's the second C. And the third C that you said was cautious growth. And I have to say that one surprised me because we hear so often that tech companies are asked to scale as quickly as possible. So why do you say cautious growth?
So growth is great, but growth needs to be cautious. From an immigration and a government regulatory standpoint, if a company takes off a bite that is too big to chew, it's going to land itself in difficulties down the road. Prime example of that is if a company files an H-1B petition very shortly after being formed, it's most likely going to be scrutinized extensively as to its ability to pay. And so if the company doesn't have the tax returns and is petitioning, it's going to be hard to prove that it has the adequate resources to sponsor that individual. In addition, I call this cautious growth, it's a little bit like the height requirement in a roller coaster. You either make it or you don't. And even for companies that are brand new and have not had any exposure to the immigration process, if they are well funded and if the corporate formalities are met and if they have the right structure, then they can sponsor individuals.
I see.
If they have a physical presence, if they have an office space, then it allows them to undertake those obligations. But if they're unwilling to engage in those types of investments, then it's going to be more difficult for them. And lastly, I would say that from a cautious growth perspective is that in this desire, in this haste to scale, if the company ends up attracting and retaining workers that are visa dependent while displacing its American-born workers, it's going to create difficulties down the road for sure. It's a Pandora's box where if American workers are going to be displaced by foreign-born workers, then the company is likely to face claims down the road from that disgruntled ex-employee, and it's really not worth it for them to go down that particular path.
I see. So instead of working with the immigration department, they could find themselves working with the litigation department. Not good.
That's not good. As happy as we are to provide services to our clients, we don't want to see companies get into that position.
That makes a lot of sense. Well, thank you for explaining the 3 C's of HR investments. This has been Protect and Grow Your Tech Company.